Interesting. Now, this is all predicated on the current economic environment. How long do you predict this environment is going to last?
You know, back in 2008, I thought it would be a 24-month period. Recently had a conversation with somebody from the FDIC, and he said they will close more banks in 2010 than they have in 2009. They've already closed, we're in September today, they've already closed 110 banks. So we're thinking there's another 3-year period where banks will continue to fail. The FDIC will continue to take them over and sell off the loans of that particular bank.
Amazing. So let's move on to your challenges that you face on a daily basis. Can you tell us about some of the challenges you face and how you overcome those?
Well, one of the big challenges was early on, in order to buy these things, you have to have money. And I wish I had all the money in the world.
Don't we all?
And I would go out to investors, and I used to work for Merrill Lynch, so I had a nice network of investors that I went back out to and talked to them about our strategy and our investment approach, and they would nod their head and tell me what a great idea it was, and then they would ask me the question of, how many deals have you done? And I'd have to look at them and say, I haven't done any deals yet. And that was a big challenge that we had to overcome.
Sure.
And the only way we overcame it was putting our own money to work, developing a track record. And once we had that track record and could go out and show investors, here's the deal, this is what we paid and this is what we sold it for, then we overcame that particular challenge. The current challenge we face right now is really finding the best deals. There's a lot of deals out there, and there's a lot of loans being sold. It is a very big challenge to make sure that you don't get yourself into a bad deal. And you do that by doing very thorough underwriting of any loan that you're looking to acquire.
Makes sense. So what would you say are the keys to finding success in the distressed debt market?
I think the key is you have to be buying debt where the underlying collateral has cash flow. If the underlying collateral is land, you don't have any type of cash flow, and so therefore a bank's not willing to lend on something that isn't providing cash flow. So it needs to be a retail center, an industrial building, a storage unit facility, an apartment complex. You know, these are the types of assets that are refinanceable. And then you need a borrower that's going to be cooperative. You need a borrower that isn't going to file bankruptcy on you. And so you need to really understand your borrower, and a lot of the magic happens during that 30-day window when you're looking at the deals and you're looking at the collateral.
Sure. After this particular window of opportunity closes, what's next for you?
That's a great question. I've been asked that question several times because this window will only last for 3 to 5 years. I'm fairly young and have a nice career ahead of me. I think that what we'll do is we'll look for the next niche. There's always going to be niches in different economic situations, in boom markets or bust markets. And so we're going to take a look at it in 3 to 5 years. We may change our approach to where we go more towards a buy and hold strategy, where we decide to buy a loan and foreclose and take that property back and own the property. Right now our focus has been very earn and turn. Our focus has been that because I don't know what the market's going to do 6 months from now.
So you don't want to hold on to it.
So we're moving through it quickly.
What would you say it is about SilverLeaf that sets you apart from competitors?
You know, I sit on and have sat on several panels with people who I promise are a lot smarter than I am. And I think the biggest difference between our group and, say, other private equity firms out there that have a long history and track record is one word, and that's hustle. I would dare say that there are very few firms that work as hard as we work, that put in the time that we put in, and that's the difference. It's hustle. When we buy a loan, we're on the phone with the borrowers or we're on a plane to go and meet with them the very next day. We have a policy where we want to sit down after we acquire a loan. We have a 72-hour window to sit down with those borrowers, meet them face to face, look them in the eye, and figure out a win-win situation. And it just comes down to work ethic and hustle.
In this tough economic time, how was it that you discovered this opportunity?
Well, you know, I was literally reading the Wall Street Journal. And I was in March of 2008, and I can remember this very vividly. I read a story about a bank that had just been taken over by the FDIC. And it's like a light bulb went off. I said, banks have deposits and banks have loans. So what do they do with the deposits and what do they do with the loans? If I have a car loan with that bank, what happens the federal government's just taken it over. So I called the FDIC and I said, what do you do with the deposits and what do you do with the loans of this particular bank that failed? They said, we take all the deposits of that bank and we sell it to a healthy bank. And then we take all the loans. We package them up based on the asset class. If it's car loans, they'll put a big group of car loans together. If it's residential home loans, they'll put a big group of residential home loans together. And we sell it off to private individuals. And I raised my hand and said, I want to buy those. What types of discounts are they selling at? And they said, depending on the assets and depending on the collateral, they'll sell anywhere between 30 cents on the dollar to 60 cents on the dollar, depending on whether the people are paying or not paying.
Let me ask you, Shane, you talked about having worked for Merrill Lynch before, but what experiences have you had that have prepared you for this type of undertaking?
You know, I think I was just young and naive enough to believe I could do it.
Really?
I worked for Merrill Lynch. Prior to Merrill Lynch, I had started a couple companies. I've always been an entrepreneur. When I was 12 years old, my parents went out of town, and I had a yard sale with their stuff. So
They weren't there when you
They
sold?
were not there. I've always been very entrepreneurial. But I think what prepared me for this is I had left Merrill Lynch in March of 2007. And I left Merrill Lynch and told my colleagues there that I felt like there was going to be an opportunity inside of the real estate market. I felt like it was overpriced, it was overheated, and we're going to have opportunities. So I left Merrill and for a good year looked for that opportunity. The credit crisis came in the summer of 2007, and I think we were just very focused on finding that niche. Once we found the niche, I started assembling my team once we knew exactly what it was we were going to do.
Now, I understand there is a family of SilverLeaf companies. What are they?
We have just a retail real estate brokerage along with a national mortgage company. We've partnered with a bank. What the bank allows us to do is to potentially help our borrowers get refinancing through this bank. So those are the two other companies that make up SilverLeaf.
Gotcha. And the one last question I want to ask you, I understand you emphasize mandatory, having daily 8 o'clock morning meetings. Why?
These meetings are very interesting for people who have never been around SilverLeaf. I'm a big believer in a book written back in the 1930s called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And one of the things he talks about is positive affirmations, or what he calls it, autosuggestion. So inside of our morning meetings, they go from 8 to 8:30. We actually stand up and shout positive affirmations. I want my employees and the people that work for SilverLeaf to wake up in the morning and be excited about coming to work. I think if they're excited about work and what we're doing, they'll be more productive. I think most people in today's society are, they wake up in the morning and they say, I got to go to work today. And that's what I don't want. So our 8 to 8:30 meeting is focused on getting mindset right, getting people excited about being at work that day.
Wow, incredible. Well, overall, it sounds like you're really describing another one of those situations where it's time to strike while the fire is hot, right? Incredible news and fascinating information. So thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Jackie.
And thank you for watching. For 21st Century Business, I'm Jackie Bales.